They say, success attracts jealousy. And this was also true for one of the richest family in Europe. In our last video, we saw how the Medici family became the Pope's treasurer, gaining control over significant funds flowing into the church from across Europe. This position exponentially increased their cash flow, allowing the Medici to expand their business and to gain prominence in Florence. And this sudden rise, of course, brought about some resistance from other families who had, thus far, controlled Florence. What happened? Let's find out. At this time, Florence was a republic, governed by elected officials. However, real political power often rested with wealthy families, notably the Albizzi, Strozzi, and Pazzi. For them, the rapid rise of the upstart Medici posed a significant threat to their own power. Giovanni de Medici, the founder of the Medici Bank, generally avoided politics and focused on building family wealth. However, with money often comes a desire for power. Giovanni's elder son, Cosimo de Medici, later known as Cosimo the Elder, sought to elevate the family to the next level in the Florentine politics. Cosimo was a prudent strategist. He recognized that, for the Medici to become a power player in Florence, they needed to overcome resistance from the established families and build their own influence. And he saw an opening from the very behaviors of these Florentine elites. The Albizzi, Strozzi, and Pazzi families were part of what was called nobili popolani, or noble commoners, who gained political power through their wealth, and in turn, gained control over Florence's civic institutions. But, unlike the traditional nobility, they did not have hereditary noble titles. But for this video, I will just refer to them as noble families for simplicity, even though they are technically not noble. As the Albizzi, Strozzi, and Pazzi families held on to the political control of Florence for a prolonged period of time, they began to act almost like aristocracy. For example, the Albizzi family used the Santa Maria Novella Church as if it is their private chapel, hosting exclusive gatherings and ceremonies that only noble families could attend. During festivals, they held exclusive parades and elaborate costumes, while ordinary citizens could only applaud from the street as mere spectators. The noble families insisted on this tradition for many years, only to widen the gap between them and the common people. Cosimo de Medici knew that, to compete against the established families in Florence, he needed to act differently. Even though he came from immense wealth, he positioned himself as the man of the common people, and distanced himself from other noble families. His frugal and modest nature also helped building this image. Despite his wealth, he maintained a humble lifestyle. He preferred to walk through the streets of Florence over riding in a grand carriage or on a horseback. When he needed to go on longer trips, he rode a donkey. But Cosimo wasn't just frugal. His travels across Europe for his father's business, particularly to the Eastern Roman Empire, deeply influenced him. Awed by Roman architecture, he wanted to transform Florence into a city that could rival Constantinople. This ambition fueled his patronage of the arts. He supported artists and architects, acquired rare manuscripts, and funded vast libraries. Cosimo's cultural investments amounted to about $3.3 billion in today's money. But these were not merely for personal luxury. For example, he renovated the San Marco Monastery, transforming it into a magnificent and beautiful building. He commissioned the famous artist Fra Angelico to cover the walls of the monastery with breathtaking frescoes. Each monk's cell is adorned with Fra Angelico's stunning works. It was an extraordinary contribution to Florence's artistic heritage. But, unlike other nobles who kept Santa Maria Novella to themselves, Cosimo opened the San Marco Monastery to the public, allowing ordinary citizens to use it for their festivals and gatherings. This became a communal space for the people. Cosimo also kept a room in the monastery where he met with ordinary citizens to listen to their needs, often sponsoring their businesses or celebrations. He was not only generous with his money, but also with his time. He ensured that every request people made of him was documented, so that he could personally address the concerns brought to him. His approachability and humility earned him the admiration of the people. And over time, his genuine care for the citizens won their hearts, and he became one of the most beloved figures in Florence. As Cosimo's influence grew, the established noble families, the Albizzi, the Strozzi, and the Pazzi, felt increasingly threatened. The Albizzi, led by Rinaldo degli Albizzi, conspired with the other families to get rid of him. So, in 1433, Rinaldo accused Cosimo of subverting the Republic and aiming for tyranny. Cosimo was arrested and brought before the Signoria, which was Florence's governing body. In a hastily conducted trial, Albizzi called for Cosimo's execution. Cosimo's situation was dire, and it seemed the death sentence was inevitable. But Cosimo was prepared. He managed to communicate with his family, and instructed them what to do. Following his instructions, the Medici family swiftly liquidated their assets, and quietly but quickly fled Florence one by one for Venice, thus ensuring their wealth would be safe. They also bribed the prison guards, so that one of the guards could accidentally drop the key to Cosimo's cell, and someone else would just happen to pick it up as one. So Cosimo managed to escape and fled in disguise to Venice in a carriage his family had secretly arranged. When you are trying to eliminate an opponent like Cosimo de Medici, it's crucial to strike fast to avoid a counterattack. But the Albizzi, Strozzi, and Pazzi families missed their chance. After Cosimo and the Medici family fled to Venice, people of Florence, who had benefited from Cosimo's generosity, began to protest. Cosimo's genuine care for the citizens had gained widespread support of the people, and his arrest and exile prompted public outrage. The atmosphere in Florence grew tense. The Albizzi, Strozzi, and Pazzi families could barely walk the streets without being accosted for their actions against Cosimo. Within months, the political climate shifted, and, in the next election for the Signoria, Medici supporters gained power, and Cosimo returned to Florence soon after. Now that Cosimo was back, it was his turn. The Albizzi family was overthrown and was exiled. So, the Albizzi, once so powerful, was almost completely destroyed. The Strozzi family, too, was reduced to rubble. The Pazzi family survived only because they switched sides to ally with the Medici family at the last moment. This marked the point where the Medici family cemented their dominance in Florence. This is the Medici residence, Palazzo Medici Riccardi. It was designed by the famous architect Michelozzo. Originally, the architect Brunelleschi, who designed the famous domed ceiling of the Duomo, had proposed a grander palace, but Cosimo rejected it. He feared that a palace that is too luxurious and grand would alienate the Medici from the common people. He preferred a more modest design that symbolized power without provoking envy, though he reportedly always felt a little bit of regret that the palace wasn't as grand as it could have been. Inside the Medici palace, there's a family chapel where you can see a large fresco depicting the Medici family and the procession of the three Magi. In this painting, you'll notice a proud young man dressed in golden robes leading the procession. That's Lorenzo de Medici, Cosimo's grandson, who would later inherit his grandfather's mantle and lead Florence. And, if you look closely, you will also spot a brown donkey in the background, alongside a white horse. Riding the donkey is Cosimo, a nod to his modest habits during his lifetime. He had always preferred to ride a donkey rather than a horse or a carriage, even at the height of his wealth and power. It was a symbolic display of his connection to the common people. Cosimo was generous not only with his money but also with his time. Whenever a citizen approached him with a problem or request, he would stop and listen, and often personally ensured their concerns were addressed. His humility and care for the people earned him the title Pater Patriae, meaning Father of the Nation, after his death. So today, we've explored how Cosimo de Medici elevated the Medici family to the pinnacle of power in Florence. He was a remarkable man who understood the importance of both political strategy and public goodwill. In our next video, we'll delve deeper into what happened after Cosimo's rise and the events that followed. So please like and subscribe to continue receiving the stories from history. Also check out our playlist to watch other stories from French and Spanish history. It really helps a small channel like us.